In the words of philosopher LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback. Hello there, everyone. It's Sean again after an extremely long hiatus. I felt the need to revive this little project, and I know much has changed since the last time I was here. So I thought to knock the dust off, I'd only go with a couple of stories this time. Up first is a little tale from Sam Schill that demonstrates what we don't know might just be able to hurt us after all. For your entertainment, I give you Smiling in the Dark. Reggie's thick brows are so worried they're almost meeting above his big nose. His tongue slips out, wetting his dry lips across the wound where it has recently been busted. I mean, this ain't, he says, and he kind of pauses like he can't think anymore. Like his cogs got all rusty and creaked to a stop. Then he somehow gets them all oiled up again and he goes, "This ain't no joke, man. I'm not even sure I should show you this." He looks like hell. Black eye, bruised cheek, and a cracked lip all swollen. When he says that, my arm feels tingly, and the little hairs there stand up. I toss my baseball lightly from one hand to another. Not hard, but just enough so that I really feel the weight of it. I know he's being serious about this. Reggie says 3 days ago he found this thing down in his basement. He accidentally banged the wall with an old broom he was pretending was a staff. He's a big fan of Morgan from The Walking Dead. A big gaping hole got knocked in the wall and a dusty old locked box was inside. That's where the thing was hidden. "What is it?" I ask. "I don't know," he says, almost in a panic. "You can't be serious." "Swear to God, I never looked at it," he says, doing some weird hand sign that probably has something to do with religion. "Mike got the lock open, and then after how he acted, I just closed it." I didn't get it. "What exactly did he do?" "He attacked me." "I see that, but why?" "He lost it. He just came straight at me like he was possessed or something. I swear, it had to be the thing in the box. Whatever is in there, you got to be careful." His eyes were wide, afraid. I felt a lump forming in my throat. "Why don't you just look?" I said, feeling nervous. "I'm scared to." I can see it on his face that he's truly scared of this mystery box. "You're the bravest guy I know, Cody." I can be brave. I've always been the first one in our group to try new skating stunts. I love rock climbing, and I've bungee jumped a couple of times. But this is different. "I think you're just pulling my leg," I say, because I'm tired of playing games. But I have that eerie nagging feeling. It's like there's something twisting around in my stomach. A fishing line, and I'm hooked. Metaphorically. "Let's just see then." "Tell me what it is. Don't go all mute and psycho like Mike did," he says. His hands are shaking while he pulls out this forest green metal box. It's about the size of an old lunchbox and has some visible rust spots. It's all banged and scraped up. I stop switching hands with my baseball and grip it in just one. Reggie has his head turned, squinting like there's going to be an explosion. He opens it and I'm amazed. All at once, it's like all my emotions leave my body. All my thoughts. Then all at once, they come flying back at me from every which way. The thing I'm looking at, it's worth more than words. "What is it?" Reggie says. A photo?" I'm staring like a deer in the headlights that everyone's always talking about, my heart pounding away. It's... How do I put this into words? It's a woman. A picture of a woman. She's just standing there, looking at the camera. Black? No. Blonde? No. No, red hair. Wasn't it all of those colors at some point? It doesn't matter, it's red. I've decided that it's red, which is good, because that's my favorite anyway. Green eyes that stand out like someone put a black light on and they're made of special paint. Wow, she's pretty, I say. It's getting hard to focus. I see her smiling at me. Her arms are open, inviting, like they're waiting for me to walk right into them. Dude, Reggie says, all frustrated. She's... And then it occurs to me that maybe I shouldn't tell him. In fact, I get an idea. A great idea. It's just a photo. Nothing really. I think you're tripping. Reggie looks disappointed. Relieved? He clamps the box shut and sets it on his nightstand. Dude, I was all ready for it to be something crazy, he says. Well, it's not, I say. Let's go play ball. I hold the baseball up to remind him visually. As we leave the room, my eyes sweep back to the box. She's laying just inside, laying in the dark, smiling. I've waited all day, but I can't take it anymore. I'm sweating. My mind just keeps going back there. My heart is racing. I need her. I need to see her again. This isn't just desire. This is so much deeper. This is life or death. I'll die if I can't look at her. But I'll see her tonight. As soon as Reggie goes to sleep, I'll slip from his closet and get rid of him. Then it'll just be me and her forever. I traded in my ball for my bat, and it's the hard wood I feel in my hands now. I hear Reggie snore. In the blackness of his closet, a smile spreads over my face. With friends like that, who needs enemies? Our second and final tale this time around comes from a longtime favorite author of mine, Gavin the Orangutan Wilson. In his story, we meet a man who's gotten quite a bit in over his head. So sit back, relax, and enjoy The Pen is Mightier. Some people are born with talent. Some can soar across the piano and create music to make men weep. Others sing, produce complex mathematical theorem, or make vast sums of money through business. My talent, as it turns out, is for communication. But not through penmanship or oratory. Simply put, I ease the passage of those who have not left this world into the next. It's not an exorcism. I do not destroy, banish, or remove. I commune with those souls who have decided not to leave this particular plane of existence, and I try to work out why. There is always a reason which can range from the need to see justice done to wondering whether the family estate was split in the manner asked for in the will. I hope by reading this someone may come to understand the circumstances in which I now find myself. I hope they may be able to help me in the same way as I have tried throughout my life to help others. I hope in some small way for forgiveness for what I have done. It seems I have been granted some time to set pen to paper, so please allow me to scribe away my remaining seconds whilst I try to ignore the screams outside. Yesterday, or so it was when all this started, I found myself in a rather grand-looking manor house atop a hill in a small town in rural Devon, a gentle spot surrounded by a loop of one of the larger rivers, a property in a commanding position sitting quietly in stone majesty from its position above the town. Dappled shade in the garden, gentle sloping lawns, and a high wall separating the grandness from the rest of the town rabble had made it an irresistible buy for its new owner, an ex-army colonel. He had bought the house for a knockdown price from a past-it rock star who had decided to move back to London to see if he could restart his aging rock star career and get laid. As the colonel discovered, it went for a knockdown price not because the fading drummer could no longer pay for his drug habit, but for the simple fact that it was haunted. Well, sort of. There were none of the classic signs. No secluded patches of cold in an otherwise warm house. No flickering of lights or feeling of being brushed in passing as if by a light draft of wind. Merely things got moved. Or, more specifically, pens and pencils, paper, anything left in the area of the colonel's old leather-topped desk in the corner of the upstairs room. Being a rather grand old house, it was constructed over 3 stories, with a wonderful Erie-type loft space in the corner turret that looked out over the river on one side and the town on the other. A space for thinking, a room for dreamers and artists, somewhere to sit and watch and get lost in the patterns on the water, or the clouds in the sky, or merely wander through the corridors in one's head. This night, however, it was to be my working space. The colonel left me alone in the house with assurances that he would be back the following day to check whether I had been able to teach the ghost to make paper aeroplanes, or indeed whether I had managed to get him, or her, to go away. Once he had gone, I made myself a sandwich and a cup of coffee and went upstairs to wait the onset of darkness. Unusually on this warm summer's evening, I enjoyed the change towards night. It was truly a beautiful spot, and compensated for the normal sense of unease that precluded an attempt at communication with the restless shade. As the moon rose through the few wispy clouds and the bats in the roof took to the air to search for something winged and tasty, I watched silently as a piece of paper lifted as if caught in a breeze and settled in the center of the desk. The seconds ticked by, and although tuned by nature and long association with the paranormal, it felt like an age before anything else happened. The hairs on my arm gently stood to attention, and the moonlit room was graced with the presence of another as a pale, translucent hand took form above the paper. I sat in silence for several minutes in expectation of more. But that was it. Just a hand. There was a suggestion of a ruffled cuff, an expensive cut of ghostly patterned cloth, but nothing else. The hand gestured, and a pen jutted across the desk as if summoned. I was impressed despite myself. This spirit had a will and intent sufficient to animate objects. Not in some random destructive manner, which is relatively common, but in a structured way that implied purpose and motive. The pen lifted slightly, then fell. It lifted again, hovered briefly, and fell back to the leather. The frustration was palpable in the room, and the ghostly hand balled into a fist, soundlessly striking the desk again and again. How many times had this happened? How long had this been going on? And this is where I earned my crust. Time to intervene. Mostly spirits will ignore the living unless they have been wronged by them, or they make an effort to communicate with them. So far ignored, I made my presence known by thought. The projected message, "I'm here." Simple enough in form, immediate in effect. The atmosphere in the room altered immediately, a palpable anger bombarding my senses. The hand froze, then rose into the air, flexing in readiness. You could imagine the body still there, tensed, ready for fight or flight, the hand ready to find a weapon or clench into a fist. The moonlight that had previously lit the room with bright silver light dimmed, and a dark edge blackened my vision. Before any action could be instigated by the now angry spirit, the next thought I projected was just as simple. I'm here to help. There was a slight change in stance, and as I continued communicating to the presence in front of me, it relaxed and we engaged in conversation. The shade was hesitant at first, then questioning, and eventually asked for help. A simple request, it seemed. As has happened many times in my slightly unusual career, this was a case of unfinished business, a task incomplete. Once we had conversed, it turned out the long-dead man was a writer. The only thing important to him was to finish a long-forgotten piece of work. Perhaps I could finish it for him? No. As soon as the suggestion had left my mind, the response came back. Panicked, powerful, and painful, and driving me to my knees with its power. Gasping, I sought for an answer and framed a tentative response, scared now by the power of the previous reply. Thankfully, there was acquiescence, and a few minutes later I found myself sharing a physical space with a non-physical being. Unpleasant, tingly, wrong, interesting, informative. But overall a reminder I was communicating with someone long dead, alien, and cold to the mind. We shared a space so this other presence could use my strength to pick up the pen, rest on the paper, and carve out the ending to a long-forgotten work with an unknown plot. He wrote with the long, practiced hand of the scribe, and as he did, he unwittingly gave himself away. Sharing a space as we did with him intent on his work, he let down his guard, and we shared not only space, but memory. As he wrote, the story of his life unfolded in cinematic form in my mind. What a gift this man had had! His writing could influence the material world around him, but he was limited in one area. He was unable to affect himself. While he could not change the way he appeared or his clothes, things he wrote of other people and places came true. A gift which grew in power with age. He influenced a massive area. He wrote of love and people fell head over heels. He wrote of rain and the clouds gathered over drought-stricken fields. He wrote of peace and warring factions sat down and broke bread together. As with any gift, however, there is a double edge, a curse, a dark side. Fame, it seemed, was fleeting. For an unattractive and socially awkward young man who could change nothing of himself, he retreated into solitude, a solitude that brought introspection and depression. Alone and starved of love, experimentation with his gift brought ruin. As is true with all humans, he was capable of both great acts of good and terrible acts of darkness. In time, it was the darkness that won, and the shadowy side of his soul that prevailed. It began with petty malices. An old man glancing at the mansion fell and broke a leg. A cart horse reared, spilling a load of barrels to the cobbles. A house caught fire. Birds fell dead from the sky, and fights grew common outside the public houses. Uncaring laughter echoed from the high tower at each of these events, and the townsfolk mourned their once gifted sponsor. As the years passed, things got worse. Appalling crimes, myriad deaths, and assaults degraded the people of the town to barbarous animals. Unable to fully control their actions, debauchery and murder flourished with every addition of ink to the page. But even evil must sleep. Callous disregard bred indifference, and while writing what he considered to be his greatest work, self-absorption lapsed into sleep. During the night, a king's man who had been sent to investigate the dark rumors broke into the tower and put a knife into the heart of the sleeping prophet, breaking his hold on the town. The turret and its contents were put to fire, with the stiffening form of the prophet and his works consumed by the flames. Time and shame sealed the lips of history. The turret was eventually rebuilt, and nothing physical remained of the evil which had consumed the town. Nothing physical. So was he seeking redemption? I managed to pull away from the contact a little, retreating from the darkness and soiled contact of his memories, and focused on the writing in front of me. As I scanned the scrawling script, he reached the last paragraph of his greatest work, and panic rose within me. I had been outwitted. He was strong and clever, this spirit. Knowing I would find his past terrible, he allowed me to lose myself in his memories while he wrote. As I was lost in his past, he revisited his greatest work. Hours passed, and he held me tight in his cold embrace, fully in control. Finally, he came to the end and finished writing with a flourish of his pen. The contact broke. The hand lifted from the table and became a shimmering pearlescent figure who stepped away from the desk, faced me, bowed elaborately, and, with a mocking smile on his lips, faded into the bright, clear moonlight. It had ended simply with 2 words. The end. And it was. Almost. Almost. I have some little time left, it seems. I have no idea how far what I can see extends, only that it is at least to the horizon. From what I saw of his past, that appeared to be the limit, and I can only hope that this is true, and his powers have not grown with the passing centuries. Maybe I will take his place and whisper my secrets to another like me in the future. Maybe this written testimony to my own stupidity will survive what is going on outside. Maybe. He is gone, his work complete. The screams from outside are my only company now. He was certainly classical in his attitude to the end of the world. His penmanship has meant that I have seen 4 giant horses with their mythical riders thunder across the face of the moon, the scythe and sword glinting in the uncaring moonlight. Pestilence came first, his giant white horse spreading fear through the screaming throngs below. The second was War, his red charger leaving havoc and murder in its wake, his sword scattering blood in dark drops. The third, Famine, the gluttonous figure folding over his skeletal horse in overlapping folds of flesh. And finally, the shrouded figure of Death on his pale green steed partially eclipsed the moon, gathering the disembodied souls and tearing them from this reality to the next, the scythe harvesting those who had passed on. I am exhausted and alone now. The screaming has ceased. One edge of the remaining world is lit with flame, the other with an encroaching dark which moves like a plague of insects, devouring and consuming the firmament. He had originally written it this way so he could see the end of everything he had come to hate, before he himself was left as a master of the wasteland which remained. But his own carelessness had stopped him. Trapped in the shadows, he could not summon the necessary strength to finish his last greatest work until someone had given him the way out. Me. If anyone ever does see this, I am sorry. My ego has caused this. My own faith in my abilities, the faith that anyone or anything could and should be helped. The buzzing is close now. Breathing is becoming difficult. I am sorry. I just wish.
And that's going to bring us to the end. Hopefully I'll be joining everyone again, and sooner this time around. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode's stories, please take a moment to visit the author's pages and show them some appreciation. Until next time, take care.